increases your reaction time by twice as much compared to having two things to react to. He's still my boy. I don't care that he's 0-3 in his last 3 fights. 2 of them are close split decisions, and he's fighting the best people in the world. And that's Petr Yan. And you know who else is my boy? Boxing for MMA. Because he does these big, amazing compilations of fighters sparring. It's an amazing archive. I'll put a link to the original video in the description. But let's break down Petr Yan's sparring. Some of the most ruthless sparring you'll see. So let's get it started. So here it's starting with a bit of Tiger Muay Thai promotional stuff. That's classic John Jones, touch the knee, and then open with the spinning back kick, back fist even. Petr Yan, when he spars, he doesn't even care if he hits him in the, if he hits him with a forearm, as we'll see. There's a spinning back kick. Using the spinning back kick as an extension of his cage cutting as well. When people's stance flattens up against the fence, that makes him square open for that back kick to hit straight into the body. He's very good at touching up high, and this is a very classic thing we'll see a lot of really good boxers do. Amateur boxers, where they'll go 2 hooks to the body and then close the door with a jab that just interrupts any possible counter. There's a little head feint up high. Petr Yan is really good at throwing like a slap or a head feint up high and then hitting to the body, though he gets hit with a cross on that one. Throwing like a goofy little head feint, then a cross, because he opens himself up to kick, and he had the range wrong. He felt himself a little bit too much. Open stance, very interesting, Petr Yan's approach from open stance, because he kind of has the same tools equally well from orthodox and southpaw that he can hit in open stance. He's really good at taking that head position inside in the clinch, and that can allow him to break and hit with elbows. When he fought the Korean guy who was Korean Zombie's protege, he managed to use that head position to guide him into a spinning elbow. Really good high guard from both stance. That's a really good option, as he can keep it closed or open. When he goes southpaw against a southpaw, he can kind of start to use the same in-close high guard. Because when you fight a southpaw and you're orthodox, it tends to lengthen the game out. It tends to be longer, a lot of hand fighting. And that high guard, it doesn't work as well because it can just step outside and split it with the rear straight. However, when you go southpaw with them, you can keep the range closer, and that classic high guard works a bit better. And Petr Yan can do that really well. This is more of a light touch to spar. Here, this is more like an experimental type spar. This isn't the kind of death spars that we can see at some point in the video that Petr Yan will be doing. Again, this is something we saw in the Yuki Yosa spar, where changing the guard based on range. See, when it's a bit longer, he might have his palms turned out to parry, and then when he gets a bit closer, he goes to that more conventional high guard, spinning back fist. But as we saw in the Corey Sandhagen fight, continuing on from the spinning back fist. Rukia Anpo's got a really good knockdown like that, where people see something spinning and something a bit strange, it tends to freeze them for a second. Even if they avoid it, people avoid it and think, oh, thank God I avoided that. But you can continue in with hooks, you can continue in with kicks. Sean O'Malley did it really well. Plus, you've got a lot of momentum. I remember seeing Sayok do it against Craig Jose. He threw a kick, missed, spun around and threw the same body kick, like a left body kick, missed, and then left body kick again. Again, you can step back, kind of not having the same stance discipline because it's a lighter spar here, just playing around. And there's a hook kick to the head, really well controlled. Generally, as a rule of thumb, when you're sparring, I want to say nothing unpadded to the head. But if you can control it that well, that's fine. Here we're seeing the southpaw game of Petr Yan. The overhand and then the body hook. Establishing double threats. So when his head dips outside one time, he's throwing the overhand to the head. Then when he dips outside the next, he's throwing it to the body. But not a lot of difference between them. That's what makes it effective. That's why he hits the body. Then he goes cross. See how it's the same weapon, the left hand, but he's hit it at 4 different angles. Hit it overhand to the head, hook round to the body, cross to the head, cross to the body, sometimes straight, sometimes looping. That's what makes it really effective. And it's the same body movement. So it's the same body movement. You see him dip, his right shoulder comes outside, his head dips outside a bit. It's the same body movement, it's the same tell that you're going to read, but the arm just comes at a slightly different angle, whether that's looping around to the head, looping around to the body, or going straight to the head and body. It's like a quadruple attack. Sometimes people can guess the mix-up, can guess the double attack, like when it's Sifu on master mode. you know, you have a few goals and you can guess the double attack. But when it's a quadruple attack, triple attack, it becomes much harder. There's a thing called Hick's law, where it's like linearly, with the amount of stimulus and stimulus reactions, your reaction time reduces. So having 4 possible things to react to reduces your reaction time by twice as much. Well, increases your reaction time by twice as much compared to having 2 things to react to. And I'm getting carried away. Boom. 2-touch kick. Rikiya Anpo style again. I always like to mention Rikiya Anpo. Into this outside trip. I think it's not a Sotogari, but I'll need some judo terminology correction. I've already got a Kyokushin one because of the amount of weeb mispronunciations I do. But let's look at it again. So, he hits this 2-touch kick, and again he follows in. Unorthodox techniques, something really good you can do is follow in on unorthodox techniques. That was a Conor McGregor classic, all the 2-touch kicks or the 2-touch knees and then step down left straight. Because the guy's out of position, he falls back southpaw, and he's not really in his stance, he's just fallen there. Petr Yan has an easy sweep on the outside, and there's a knee to the head. Again, very questionable. Those knee pads don't look too solid. Don't look like they're really fit to wrap a chip butty that's got a bit of vinegar on it. You can tell the difference between when Petr Yan's sparring with his boys or sparring with some guy they've brought in, some tourist, because it's like the Yuki Oza spar. When Yuki Oza spars with Masaki Noiri, they're having a technical nice spar. When they spar with someone they've brought in, it's death mode. Let's look at that again. Hook, 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 boom. See, often we see the straight punches into the hooks, but when we see the hooks into the straight punches, that can work really well as well. These are 2 of the boys sparring. Petr Yan suddenly has eaten a lot of palmos and has got very thick for the case of this video. And back to Petr Yan sparring, using a southpaw game, mixing between guards. See how he kept tight. The guy throws a spinning back fist, which is, that spinning back fist to the close side is actually a really dangerous strike, like Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk style, because people tend to lean outside as they throw that rear cross, rear overhand, and they can fall into it. Big guys again. It's like Petr Yan without the skill and on a lot more palmos. Big shoot. You wouldn't want them to fall on your knee, or you wouldn't have one left. There we're seeing Petr Yan dynamically switching stance to get back inside and using the Osotogari. I think it's an Osotogari, please correct me. Threatening the sweep on the front leg and then sweeping the back leg. Really interesting. And what he does this well off is off the knee feints. So the knee comes up. Both of their knees come up at the same time, but then he just uses it to get his foot position outside. If he was just to nakedly step for it, it might not work. Beautiful kick catch. Petr Yan, some of the best kick catches in MMA. And using that sweep again. It's very interesting how he can time it. He's not just doing it when someone has a static stance. He knows when people have switched involuntarily, and then he can hit that sweep. I think it's more effective when he hits these sweeps, is he's hitting it not just when opponents are in the stance, not just when they made a planned switch, but he gets them when opponents have switched unintentionally. If you're switching unintentionally, you're likely putting yourself off balance. Again, sparring here, using the lead right straight, and then closing with the hook, and then spinning. Sometimes that's a good way to like mix up your combinations to the opposite, is leading with a very non-committal straight and then leveraging that into the hook. And we're seeing the Rikiya Anpo kick again, 2-touch. This one very interesting. Times it as the guy steps in on a jab, so it takes a little bit more of his balance away and he lands. Really good head movement. Countering to the body. That's something Petr Yan does really well, is he does have his high guard, which you'd think makes him open to the body, and people can land the body shot, but he's always got a counter ready. Can always drop his shot down on him. Baz Rutten used to talk about how he'd like to keep his hands either really high or really low, and if he keeps his hands really high, he knows they might go to the body, so he's ready to drop the counters down on his opponents. Drop them hands. I'm turning Tito again. Well, here's a triple hook. They start to open up on the spars a bit more. This guy rests in what he thinks is a safe shoulder roll position, which really wasn't. Eats one hook, A lot of the time when you catch people out of position, they don't expect the same shot to come back again and again and again. So you hit them with the triple hook. There's a classic Petr Yan move from close stance, the left hook to left kick. He loves to slap and then throw a body kick on the same side. He never even throws like a really super committed hook and then kick, like Brandon Moreno sometimes throws a big left hook into a big left kick. He just likes that slap. Just make sure the guard is pinned in place, and then he'll dig the toes or dig the round kick to the body in the conventional style. High guard and checking. This guy's using side feints, and that's another use of the spinning back kick, especially as the aggressive guy, is to cut the cage off, to cut the opponent off. If they circle out that way and you can't reach them with a hook or a left kick, that back kick can catch them. Body shots into the straight punch again. So it's something with Petr Yan's style is that what makes Petr Yan's counters so effective is that he is comfortable to hang around in the pocket there for a second. He's not trying to throw his hand back immediately. Sometimes Vicente Luque is really good at this as well. If you're trying to counter immediately, people are always ready on a hair trigger for that counter coming back. Whereas if you can pause it just a second or two, like really good kickboxers, really good boxers have that comfort to hang around in the pocket just that extra second, they can fire back. They can see the read better, and they can catch their opponent at a different timing. The downside of this is if people get the rhythm on this, they can fire away 2-3 shots, and then if they see that shot coming back, or they just get a sense for the timing on that shot coming back, the legs are kind of stuck in the mud, the feet are stuck in the mud because you're waiting for that counter, and then they can dip in, get in on that takedown. This is the issue we saw with Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. But yeah, people are kind of waiting on that whack-a-mole where their kind of hands are tight, they're waiting for that counter hook. If you know it's coming, just touch, and then when you shoot, chances are you'll be deep in on their legs. Petr Yan has really good defense, but it's really hard to defend against good wrestlers consistently for 25 minutes without using the feet, without using the movement. So here they're sparring Fazeev in about 3 square meters of space. See, they go hard, but you can tell when they're boys, like we were talking about Yuki Yosa and Masaki Noiri, they don't absolutely pace each other. They'll work away, they'll touch each other, they'll put a few hard shots in, and then if they see they're off balance, they won't keep swinging. Let's see what Fazeev did there. So, there's like a flurry, a little shoe shine. Fazeev, inside kick, uses that inside kick to land and then pivot. I'm stealing that. That's brilliant. That little foot movement, that'd be brilliant against southpaws as well. Inside kick, and then landing it a bit further out to get the foot outside and pivot around into his next combination. I'm going to steal that. There's a good uppercut by Fazeev and a counter by Yan. That's the thing about uppercuts is they are quite counterable. They take a little bit of a time to load up, and they can take a little bit of time to reload, so it speaks, to get it back to your guard. A lot of time we see like a Tyson Fury, he'll uppercut and then push away, or a Masato uppercut and push away. In the pocket there, not really firing knees at each other, even though they're at knee range. Jab to counter hook. There's that head feint Fazeev likes to do. He kind of combines a hip feint and a head feint. He gets his head outside to load up the left hook body. Multiple hooks until Petr Yan's in the... I'm not a botanist, I don't know what that flower is. Petr Yan's really good at landing back southpaw and staying solid with it. Kind of like dropping into his southpaw intentionally rather than falling into it. See how he landed his right kick and then had a really active push off his right leg to land southpaw and then left himself a bit open. Bit of like the touch work. This is always important. I love this type of work. It's upgrading the software without damaging your hardware. This kind of touching. See how Petr Yan, even in this light thing, he'll use his lead hand to touch, get their hands up high, and then hit the cross to the body. He does this loads in his fights, measures away with the lead hand to put the cross to the body when it's close stance. And see there how he shifted in? Shifted with a right hook to get close to a left hook to the body. And he did this recognizing that his training partner had switched stance, so now the opening to the body is on the other side. So he shifted in. Here, we've got kind of like a Yakuza side quest style spar. Another touch spar. I really like these types of spars. You can do them all day. They're brilliant. And you can do them with heavier weights, and it doesn't really matter. Spinning kick. Probing away, open hands. Ooh, and there's like a nice slide by. If you watch Max Holloway, get this shit off screen. If you watch Max Holloway versus Anthony Pettis, he does this really good where you'll opposite stance, side kick the knee, and then he can feint the side kick to cheat into outside foot position really easily, and then just use that momentum from the feint of the side kick just to step down and throw hard combinations. So here, there's that cross counter. Again, as the guy looked to the body, he spin kick. He's going to look for this side kick to the body, knee feint, side kick to the body, slide by, and then triple off the lead hand. He has such a good quadruple and triple threat off that rear hand. Should have said rear hand, sorry. From southpaw. You see that shoulder come across and you see him dip his head to the outside angle. You're like, is it an overhand to the head? Is it a hook to the body? Is it a cross to the head? Or is it a hook to the body? I'm in sunny old London, by the Thames. Got my visa appointment. Hopefully, with this fancy spangled microphone, you just hear me and you don't hear all the construction work going on. Thank you to all the Patreon kings for supporting the breakdowns. Hopefully I don't say something absolutely fucking numpty in this little interview here. Thanks, lads. Any suggestions on who I should break down next? Put them in the comments, or I don't know, write it in a bottle and throw it at people who don't think Resident Evil 6 is that good.